All right, hey guys, this is Jeff of All Trades here, and another troubleshooting issue. It's real common in in-ground pools after they've been installed for a few years to develop leaks on the pressure side, so where your eyeball fittings are or where your pool cleaner fitting is, if you have a pressure side pool cleaner. And most of those leaks are right where the PVC enters the wall of the pool. And so the classic way to get these fixed is to call somebody out with a leak detector and pay them a lot of money to find your leak, and then you have to pay someone else to cut a big hole in your deck and dig up the pipe, and it's kind of a mess and kind of hard to do. And I have done that. I had somebody paid a leak detector to come out and find the leaks in my pool. And I bought a concrete saw at a pawn shop for cheap and cut a big hole in my pool deck, and have utterly failed to fix the leak with all sorts of different glue, epoxy methods, whatever. And I'm not really willing to take the step of, replacing the entire pipe and messing with the integrity of the wall of my pool. And so we've come up with another method that we're going to try out. Commercially, there are companies that will put liners inside of big sewer pipes, and essentially they just use a hose that's filled with epoxy, put it into an inverting machine, and use compressed air to invert it and blow it down the pipe. And they hold air pressure in it until the epoxy is cured, and then then there's essentially a pipe within a pipe. You've got a layer of resin and then the hose, and then the damaged pipe on the outside doesn't really matter anymore, right? So I can't find anybody that's willing to come out and do this for a 2-foot section of pipe, so I decided to kind of create my own solution. So what we have here are some PVC fittings, right? I have a 3-inch street elbow and a reducer down to 1.5, because that's the size that my plumbing is for my pool. All right, I have a barb fitting here that we had to sand down some to fit some plastic 1.5-inch drain hose. And then I have some various other reducers here on this end, which will allow me to thread in this plug that I have installed a Schrader valve in order to pressurize it. Right, and all of these parts I got yesterday, with the exception of this. I got yesterday at Lowe's. I spent about $60. So the 15-foot roll of the drain hose and all of these fittings, and some PVC glue and a couple other odds and ends. Spent about $60. And so, this is essentially what we're going to do. So I've cut off a section because the hole, the break in the pipe, is only about a foot in from the fitting. We've cut off about an 18-inch section here, and we're going to seal this up and kind of show you how that works. All right, so I'm pulling kind of an AVE special. Went into the wife's knitting room and pulled out a hair straightener. And this particular one's got those fancy ceramic nonstick plates. At your own risk, gentlemen. But so what we're going to do, I've got it set on 300 degrees. We've let it preheat, and it's a little too good for the job. So if we go directly on the plastic, it'll stick to the plates. We don't want that. So I've just got a piece of paper here. I'm going to fold it over the end, and then we're going to seal the end off so it'll hold air pressure. And it doesn't take too long. This almost works a little too well. I set it up at 450 the first time, and this made what looked like blue American cheese, as my little brother put it. All right, so that feels plenty hot. It's plenty melted. And give it a chance to cool off. Turn this thing off. See, no damage to the ceramic plates. If anyone was clutching their pearls or fanning themselves, all right, we're good. We didn't do any damage to the hair straightener. We tried a food saver or vacuum sealer first, and it just didn't get quite hot enough to melt through all of the thickness of this particular hose. It's just a little too thick. And so here we've got a nice wide, that's close to an inch wide section that's been melted together and sealed, and so it's going to be able to hold about 15 pounds of pressure there. As a matter of fact, as I'm looking at that edge there, I don't quite like that. That doesn't look like it's sealed quite well enough, so I'm going to hit that one more time. Just want to really make sure we don't have a blowout and an air leak. All right. Still don't like that. I'll try again. All right, so that's that. We'll take you to the next stage. All right, so we're back. We've already attached our piece of hose that's sealed on the end to our apparatus here. All right, and so the idea is going to be that we're going to coat the outside of this in some sort of marine epoxy. And I think we'll probably, the commercial solutions have like a felt or fiberglass that is impregnated with the epoxy. And so I think what we'll probably do is glue some sort of material on here so that when we apply the epoxy, we can impregnate it into the fabric. That way we make sure it's really going to be where we want it to be after we insert it. And at that point, kind of hot dog the pipe a little bit. And then, let's see, given that the length of pipe we're trying to line is going to be, at most 18 or so inches deep, we can insert it to here, right like that. And then from there, I've installed a Schrader valve into this little 3/4 inch plug. And then we have a regulated air pump here. And this hose is actually rated to 30 psi, but we found that 10 or 12 is plenty to do what we need. And we'll inflate it. And we've got this hose clamp right here. It's an imperfect solution, unfortunately, is allowing a little bit of air leakage. So we've got to solve that problem. But if you get a good view here, you can see that this hose is filling to fit the inner diameter of this pipe very nicely. And so the process would be just to maintain air pressure until maintain this air pressure until the epoxy is cured. Probably we'll deal with like a 45-minute work time epoxy. And then once that's done, we can remove any of this excess pipe, insert a tool down here to cut this sealed end inside the pipe, and we will have sealed any cracks in here. Essentially have a pipe in a pipe, sort of like a commercial cure-in-place pipe lining. And so if we release the pressure here, then, see, even now, with only a couple of pounds of pressure in it, it's plenty well fit into this tube and plenty difficult to get out. I'm not winning any strongman competitions or anything, but yeah, there you go. So the next step, we're going to attach some fabric here and get some marine grade underwater cure epoxy, and that way we won't even have to drain the pool, and we can just do this in place.